sets. That's what we're going to dig into. That's the topic.
That's the topic.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Today. Just kidding, James. No more echo. Pinch hitting for Pedro Borbon. Manny Mota. It's a funny movie quote about an echo, by the way. My kids do that. It's great. They've never even seen the movie. All right, let's talk about selling sets. Okay, everybody, first tip for selling sets. Let me ask you this question. How many pieces constitute a set? Go to the chat, unmute yourself. I don't care. How many pieces constitute a set? What do you all think? Ooh! James, I like it. I like it because I agree with you. All right. Most people, you know. All right. So here's something that I would write down, everybody. A set is 2 pieces or more. Okay. I get it. The block sets are discounted. I totally get that. But a set is 2 pieces or more. So when I talk about selling sets, what I mean here is we would like Sophia for the customer to be purchasing 2 pieces or more. Because if they buy 1 knife, what are they going to use it for? Everything. Asante, they will use that knife for everything. I don't care if it's a paring knife or a trimmer, that becomes their sharpest knife. But if they buy a trimmer and a table knife, they can at least use the table knife for small stuff and the trimmer for big stuff, and it's going to last longer. It's going to work better. It's going to be safer. Is everybody with me on this? So good morning, Carla from the North Las Vegas Aces. I don't know if your team name's the Aces, but 2 days ago, you are now. Okay. Also, important to know, Carla, your manager, his last name is Arias, Eric Arias. Some people say Arias, like on Tuesdays at noon, Baker, but it's not Arias. It's Arias. All right, here we go. So we want to focus on selling sets, 2 pieces or more. Okay. Now, I'm not sure you're aware of this, but I'm going to show you something, and we're going to take a field trip to Cutco.com, and I want to show you something. Baker, could you have the ability to give me screen sharing? I think your music is on, and therefore, if your music is on, even if you're muted, I can't share, but now I can. All right, so check this out, everybody. This right here is Cutco.com. If you've never gone to the company website, it's our 75th anniversary. All right, so this is Cutco.com. Asante, check this out. If I go right here to the search bar, right, and I type in Homemaker, I want to show you something. Homemaker +8. You already know it's 1613. Here's what you might not know. I want you to write this number down. The Homemaker +8, when purchased separately, is 1865. Okay. So it's 1613, James, if you buy it, but 1865 if purchased separately or purchased over time, James. That's basically what we're saying. Okay. So there you go, Luke. The reason that I'm showing you this is if you ever have a customer and they say to you, right, Asante, if you have a customer and they say to you, hey, I want to buy the Homemaker, but Carla, I want to buy, so Luke, we're talking about selling sets. If a customer said, Sophia, I want to buy the Homemaker, but right now I'll just get a knife, you can take her to Cutco.com. If you're in person, just pull up Cutco.com. If you're doing a presentation virtually, Sophia, pull up Cutco.com and show them, right? And if you didn't know where to find this, right? So let's go to Cutco.com, right? And then I just go to the search bar, right? I type in Homemaker, and it'll pull up the set. And what I want you to see is if somebody says, oh, Luke, I just buy 1 knife today, I'll build a Homemaker over time. Hey, you can do that, but it's going to cost you $252 more. Everybody, I don't want somebody to spend an extra $250. That's why, Sophia, it comes as a set. It's packaged. That's a nice little discount. Okay, everybody, here is something else you can do for selling sets. This is really cool. Do you realize the set that I'm talking about right now, Luke, the Homemaker? Look at the reviews. There are 409 reviews on the Homemaker Plus 8. And Sophia, the average review is 4.9. The average review is 4.9. Okay. Now let's see if I can remember how to do something. All right. So 409 reviews. I really want to get to the reviews. Okay, this is what I want to show you. This is it right here. Everybody, if you click on the reviews, this is an advanced tip. You've probably never been taught this. If you click on the reviews and scroll down, Sophia, what you'll see all the reviews that we've gotten by star. 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's what I do. You ready for this? If I have someone, Carla, who's on the fence, it could be about a knife. It could be about a homemaker. In this case, Sherlyn, let's say they're on the fence about a homemaker. I will say, I'll click on the reviews. I'll take them to Cutco.com and then James, I'll show them. Look, so we've gotten 409 reviews. 397 of them are 4 or 5 star reviews. Everybody, what I do is I add up the 4 and 5 star reviews. You know why I add up the 4 and 5 star reviews? Because Luke, some people give a 5-star quality review, but they click on 4 stars. My grandma does this. Okay, Jameson and Baker, you'll appreciate this. Okay, my grandma's 96. She's the type of person who would go to, French Laundry up in Napa, right? It got like restaurant of the year several times, Asante. She would go to that restaurant and she would give a review she would say outstanding 4 out of 5. And if Asante goes, how did you not give that a 5-star review? And my grandma would say, Asante, oh, because it's not Paris. No kidding. It's in Napa. Does that make sense? But my grandma, she'll give it like a 5-star review, but she clicks on 4. So what I do, everybody, is I add up, Luke, the 4 and the 5 stars, and I'll say, look, we've gotten 409 reviews, and I add them up. 397 of the 409 are 4 or 5-star reviews. And everybody, here's the deal. I don't care about the 1 and 2 and 3-star reviews because everybody's entitled to their own opinion, right? There are trolls everywhere. Does that make sense? Like, you could have 10 people try on the most comfortable shoes on the planet, and then the 11th person is like, yeah, it doesn't quite fit my foot right. And you're like, you're the only one here not wearing socks, dude. I don't right? Like, okay, so I don't worry at all, Asante, about the 1 and 2 and 3-star, right? So look at this, questionable quality, right? Look at this. They're 1 year old and they have rust all over the blades. I actually had that happen to a customer. Her well water, which was connected to her house, that's how it connected to her dishwasher. She had spotty knives, like all the knives, Asante, had spots on them. So you know what we did? We had her send them back to the factory and she got brand new ones for free. This is an easy customer fix right here, but the customer has no idea. Anyway, the point that I'm making, Luke, when I have somebody who's on the fence about something, I'll take them to Cutco.com. So let's say you have a customer and they're like, man, I really like the signature, but I just don't know, Sophia, if let's do the signature with, what is this, table knives or steak knives? Table knives, right? So if somebody says, James, I like the signature set, but I think I'll just buy it over time. Luke, you can tell them, you can do that. But as a set, it is discounted $425. And by the way, and this is the phrase to write down. By the way, don't take my word for it. That's the phrase to write down. By the way, don't take my word for it, and then show them the reviews and the ratings, right? My wife, when she buys on Amazon, I'll tell you, Luke, the first thing she goes to, Sherlyn, the first thing, she looks at all the reviews. I look at like, okay, is this going to work? Is this what I want, Carla? But she's like, no, there's 5 other just like that. Let's go to the reviews. Okay, no problem. So look at this, 44 reviews of the signature set. The average rating is a 4.9. And everybody, you got to realize that any rating over 4 is great. When you go to Yelp, if you see a 4.5, you're like, ooh, James, that's a good restaurant. If you go to TripAdvisor and you see a rating of 4.3, you're like, ooh, that's a good hotel. Because there are always people that post whatever they want and they give 1 stars, and I'm not worried about them. So look at this. Of the 44 reviews we've gotten, every one of them is a 4 or 5-star review. every single one of the reviews, James, is a 4 or 5. Again, I add up the 4 and the 5 because there are people that give great reviews and Demini, they click on 4. Okay, is everybody with me on this? So let's review what we've talked about so far. This is the tip of the iceberg. Number one, how many pieces are in a set, right? We talked about 2 or more. Asanti's with me. Okay, good. The second thing, you should know what the prices of things are. Or like if somebody wants to buy it over time, I want the customer, I want to be able to, Sophia, share with the customer that they're going to spend more money over time. And then also, if somebody's unsure, take them to the reviews and show them the ratings. You will get people from on the fence to I'm in. Does that make sense? Right? Like I'm on the fence about a July 4th party. And then Diego says, you should go. And I go, I am no longer on the fence. I am in. Is everybody with me on that? Like he just moved me very quickly, Sherlyn. Okay, let's keep it rolling. All right, the next thing, everybody, the next thing, say the word set as often as you can. This is a great tip. Say the word set over and over and over and over and over. Yep, S-E-T. So Carla, here's what it looks like. Lee, when you're on the company page, don't just say we've been manufactured at our factory since 1949. Don't just say we're made in America. Sherlyn, I'm like, Cutco sets are made in our factory in Olean, New York. James, we sell $300 million worth of Cutco annually, most of them in sets. When I talk about the old knives, I don't just say wooden handles and plastic handles. Carla, I say sets of knives with wooden handles, sets of knives with plastic handles, sets of knives with carbon steel, sets of knives with stainless steel, sets of knives that are improperly constructed. I am not kidding you. I am trying to say the word set, Samantha, in every single sentence. Okay, so you should make a note of these, right? On the company page, start saying the word set. On the junk knives page, don't just say wooden handles, say sets of knives with wooden handles. By the way, James, earlier I was talking about how I think the compostable cup is just going to fall apart. There is one country where they make the absolute best compostable cups. It's Hungary. Hungary. It's where Budapest is. Anyway, it's not important, James. All right, let's keep it going, Sherlyn. All right. So we're saying the word set, everybody. When you talk about, obviously it's easy when you go through names and uses. The first tool in your set's the paring knife. The next tool in your set's the trimmer. The next tool in your set's the spatula spreader. So I would write that phrase down for the paring knife. The first tool in your set's the paring knife. And then every piece after that, the next tool in your set. Now, don't overdo it. I don't want to be like, Luke, the next tool in your set, like you're going to get so much Cutco. No. The reason why you say that phrase, it's sales psychology, right? So I was a psych and econ major back in the day in college. And one of the things I learned was when you say something to a customer, they silently repeat what you said, Sophia, but they repeat it to themselves. So if I say to Sophia, the next tool in your set's the trimmer, and I hand her the trimmer, Asanti, she says to me, the next tool in my set is the trimmer. Because if I say to Asanti, the next tool in my set is the trimmer, and I hand her the trimmer, Asanti doesn't want what is mine. Asanti wants what could be hers. Everybody with me on that? The next tool in your set's the trimmer. The next tool in your set's the spatula spreader. So you want to say that phrase as you're going through names and uses. All the way to the carving set. The next tool in your set's the master carving set. Okay, now, one of my favorite phrases was, I like to throw the word investment because it helps you to sell sets. So I'm pretty sure this is in the manual or something like it is in the manual, but when you talk about storage options, the phrase, Asanti, you wouldn't want to take a nice investment like a set of Cutco and just throw it into a drawer. I would write that phrase down. You wouldn't want to take a nice investment like Cutco and just throw it into a drawer. So we have blocks and trays to store your set in. Notice I'm still saying your. You wouldn't want to take a nice investment like a set of Cutco and just throw it into a drawer. So we have blocks and trays to store your set in. All right. I don't know if I'm putting this in the chat. I try, like, I want to make sure that you got it. So here we go. Oops. Bam. There you go. Okay. Samantha, can you see what I just dropped in the chat? Lee, I know I just said it, Carla, 3 times, but I just wanted to make sure, Luke, you got it. All right. Okay. Next thing, everybody. Next thing. When you're doing the features and benefits of Cutco, refer to Cutco as the Rolls Royce. Hey, the first feature that makes Cutco the Rolls Royce of kitchen cutlery is the wedge lock handle. And then you talk about it. The second feature of Cutco that makes Cutco the Rolls Royce of kitchen cutlery is the thermoresin handle. The third feature that makes Cutco the Rolls Royce of kitchen cutlery is the nickel silver rivets. The fourth feature that makes Cutco the Rolls Royce of kitchen cutlery is the full tang. The fifth feature that makes Cutco the Rolls Royce of kitchen cutlery is the high carbon stainless steel with a 440A grade. Luke, when we say Rolls Royce over and over and over, they're thinking, oh my gosh, what's this going to cost us? And that's what you want, everybody. You want them thinking, what is this going to cost us? You have done this your whole life without knowing how. You say to mom, will you pay for my spring break? No, Luke, I'm not paying for your spring break. But mom, there's 10 of us going. Luke, I'm not paying for your spring break. Mom, like we're taking an Amtrak down to San Diego. It's for Habitat for Humanity. We're going to build 3 houses over the course of a week. And then she's like, oh, okay, I didn't realize it was that kind of spring break. Well, how much is it going to cost? Well, mom, you know how expensive spring breaks are? They're like $2,000 now. I'm not, Luke, spending $2,000. And then Luke goes, look, this is through Habitat for Humanity. $400 gets us down there and back and stay with food. Oh, if it's 400, Luke, here you go. Do you see what just happened? Because he talked about a typical spring break, couple $1,000 and then dropped down to 400, he's good. But if Luke just said, mom, can I have $400 to go to San Diego? No. So what you're doing is you want to drive their mental price up. Does that make sense? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. So the way you want to say it, you want to say the phrase Rolls Royce over and over and over. And then I would also write this down. Costs more, but it's worth it. And I'll show you how these, Lee, go hand in hand. So you're going to say Rolls Royce over and over and over. And then you want to say costs more, but it's worth it. I'm going to take another sip from my Hungarian coffee. Not bad. Not bad. Okay. The first feature that makes Cutco the Rolls Royce of kitchen cutlery is the universal wedge lock handle. It fits any size hand, left, right, large, or small. Now, having that wedge lock grip costs more money, Luke, than a straight grip. But Sophia, it's worth it because, again, it fits any size hand. The second feature that makes Cutco the Rolls Royce of kitchen cutlery is the nickel silver rivets. Now, James, I got to tell you, using nickel silver costs way more than brass and stainless steel, but it's worth it because they don't pop out or sink in. Okay, the next feature, Carla, that makes Cutco the Rolls Royce of kitchen cutlery is the high carbon stainless steel with a 440A grade. Now, I'm just going to tell you, Luke, using a 440A grade, Asante, that costs way more than using regular carbon or regular stainless, but it's worth it because it holds a great edge. It's attractive. It doesn't rust. Is everybody with me on this? Costs more, but it's worth it. Costs more, but it's worth it. What you're doing is you're driving their mental price up, which makes it easier to sell sets. Because if they think the homemakers should be $4,000 and you tell them at 1613, Luke, you're in. Right? Diego had back-to-back signatures last night. That's how it's done. I have trouble spelling the word signature sometimes, Sophia. Okay, let's continue. All right. Here's something that I learned at my first division meeting, which we have coming up. So there was a gentleman who sold $120,000 worth of Cutco the previous year at Clemson, and Luke, he was at 50% commission. So he made $60,000 as a college student at Clemson selling Cutco. Okay, he was my age, and so he spoke at the meeting, and I wanted to learn from him. And something that he said was, thermoresin is a super tough. Let me think about this. Super tough, highly durable, costly synthetic. Thermoresin is a super tough, highly durable. 4 adjectives / adverbs used to describe Thermoresin is a super tough, highly, right? So super tough, highly durable, costly synthetic. I don't think you need to say all that. I think if you just say thermoresin's a costly synthetic, but that's a great phrase to build value and help you sell sets. Here's something else I learned about Henry. If early in the presentation, Connor, he cut the penny and they're like, that's awesome. How much are they? He would shake his head no, blow air out of his mouth, and bug his eyes out at the same time. Okay? So if he cuts the penny and they're like, Sophia, those are awesome. How much are they? He'd be like, these? And they go, yeah. He'd go, and then he would keep going. At the end of the presentation, Luke, when he had quoted the price of the homemaker, they'd be like, well, how much were the shears? Oh, those are only 140. I can't remember if they're 141, 142. I should know that. But he would quote the price, right? And they're like, oh, I figured that they would be $200 or $300, right? That was building value, right? So the shears are 141. There we go. So how much are they? He would just shake his head. I love it. Okay, so again, I'm giving you some value building phrases here to help you sell sets. All right, here's a really good tip to help you sell sets. You ready for this? Ask the customer what they would use each knife for. So the next tool in your set is the Petite Carver. You'll use it for bigger stuff on the cutting board, right? Like bigger fruit, bigger veggies, also small meat. By the way, Sophia, what do you think you would cut with that knife? Oh, that knife would be great for cutting, flank steak. Now you know they'd use the Petite Carver. So at the end of the presentation, Connor, if they're not getting that, you can recommend they get it because they would use it. You're keeping it interactive if you say, Lee, say, hey, what would you use that knife for, right? Like instead of listing off 19 things for the spatula, you can talk about how it's the 60-second sandwich maker. It's great for cutting and serving pie and cake. It's the avocado knife. Hey, James, if you had this knife, what would you use it for? Oh my God, I'd make sandwiches with it all day. Done. You've sold the knife. Go to the next one. You don't need to say anything else. You're in, Luke. Right? This is why every presentation is different. You're learning how to be an active listener. All right, my next tip for selling sets, if you're in person, bring food on your appointment. If you're in person, bring food. Let me tell you what I used to bring into my appointments. I would bring in a carrot for the veggie peeler. And everybody, what I would do with the veggie peeler is I would peel before giving it to them. Because if you just hand them a peeler and a carrot, it's easy for them, Sherlyn, to screw it up because they're so used to like angling their wrist all funky. With Cutco James, they just put it flat and they peel. Domini, I'll get to your question. Let me keep rolling though. So I would bring in carrots for the veggie peeler. We could also, Luke, chop with the Petite Chef knife or Santoku, whatever you have. I would also bring in tomatoes for the trimmer. And I would have some fun with this where like I would ask for a cutting board, right? Hey, let's cut a tomato. And I would put something out on the table that's mine, that's important. And I would put the cutting board on top of it with the tomato, right? It might be my planner. And I'll say, oh, okay, let me just put the cutting board on the planner. And then I'll cut the tomato and then I give it to them. And so I've got my planner, cutting board, and tomato. And the reason I do this, I know Cutco's not going to create a mess. I know that the juice is not going to run off the cutting board onto my planner. Does that make sense? And customers are like, I wouldn't put that there. Nah, it'll be fine. Now, you don't have to do that, but I always had fun with that. Okay. Last two things. Everybody, when you talk about blocks and trays, here's a good phrase, Connor. So you already know the phrase, you wouldn't take a nice investment like a set of Cutco and throw it into a drawer. You can also say to that, just like you probably wouldn't park a Rolls Royce outside on the street. Right? Just like you probably, Luke, wouldn't park a Rolls Royce outside on the street. There you go. That's another Rolls Royce, Samantha, that we're throwing in there. All right, everybody, my last tip. And Domini, this goes to your question, so thank you for bringing this up. If you were to say to them, you can use the spatula spreader for this, this, and this, hey, what would you use it for? If they go, I don't really know. I would do one of two things. I would say, do you ever make sandwiches? Yeah, I do. All right, this is the sandwich maker. So I would ask them, but let's say I say, do you ever make sandwiches? And they go, no, I don't. I'm like, cool. And I can make a note. They're not into the spatula spreader. I want to know that because I want them to get what is the best thing for them. There's two ways to drop down. The 1.0 method where you go homemaker, galley, starter set, individual pieces. The 2.0 method, Luke, only works if you're a good active listener. It only works, James, if you've been taking notes. The 2.0 method, Asante, would you like to place an order for the homemaker? Dave, it's a great set. I don't think I'd use every piece. I agree with you on that. I was taking notes. You could even say mental notes, right? But I was taking notes as to what pieces you like. I think you would be best served with the essential set. And the reason is it's got 5 pieces that I think you would really like. The only one that it does not have is the spatula. So here's what I will do. Usually when somebody buys the essentials, and by the way, you can get it with table knives or without. Here's the price. Here's the 5-pay. Usually when somebody, Sophia, gets the essentials, we throw in the shears for free. Here's what I will do for you. I will either, Luke, throw in the shears, or because I know you love the spreader, I will throw in the spreader with the sheath, whichever you'd rather have. Do you want to do that? That's the 2.0 method. You go from the homemaker exactly to what you think is best for them. Everybody with me on that? All right, so everybody, I want you to go to the chat. Luke, I love seeing you on Champs Club. I love seeing James on, and by the way, look, I love that you're all on Champs Club, but the reason I'm going to Luke is because like Asante, this is not Asante's first Champs Club. I have seen Asante on this week. I've seen Domini on this week, right? Like I love the people that are multiple, you know, I think about Brandon last summer. He sold 11 grand in his fast start. He was on Champs Club every day in his fast start, but then he kept showing up. He's like, yeah, I learned a lot. I'm going to keep doing it. I think of Kayla Juarez. How did she get real good? Champs Club. Taya Bishop, Champs Club. Right? All right. So for those of you like Sherlyn, this is not Sherlyn's first rodeo. She's on Champs Club. She actually knew that Budapest, Hungary is the location where you can get the best compostable cups. All right. Not important. Everybody go to the chat. What's one thing you're going to take from today if you have not already written that in? What's one thing? I'm not surprised, Samantha, somebody used a cheese knife to cut a watermelon. It's not ideal. I've heard just about everything. But they should have had the full carver. That's a great watermelon knife. I actually call the full carving knife the watermelon knife. Even though it's a carving knife, but it's great for watermelon. Because most people, when they cut watermelon, they have a knife smaller than the melon, and they cut the melon, Asante, and they twist, and they cut, and then they twist, and they can never get through the melon. But that carver, you can get right through. As large as my dome is, you could get a carving knife. Like if my head were a watermelon, and for those of you that have never seen me in person, once you see me in person, you realize how I can't wear a hat, Connor. Anyway, it's not important. All right. So we're driving mental price up. Okay, so Asante, I love it. Ask what the customer would use. Yes, the mental notes. You can also take physical notes, right? Either way, Asante, I love it. Sherlyn, yes, the Cutco reviews. Yeah, there you go. There we go. All right, this is good. All right, so everybody, here's what we're going to do. The purpose of Champs Club, twofold. Number one, it's to learn. And then number two, it's to make phone calls so that you can get more appointments so that you can implement what you're learning. It's that simple. You can implement nicely. You can implement what you're learning. Okay. And by the way, the reason that we have the phone jam, it's not just so that you get appointments. It's so that you learn how to phone. Right. So yesterday, Luke, I was training some new representatives here in my San Jose office. Luke's not that far from where I am. Right. And so I was training some new representatives, Asante, and one of them, he was proactive. Like I was talking to him about his schedule, Luke. He's like, yeah, I know I don't have much going on for Father's Day, but I got to figure that out. So he calls his mom to find out what are we doing for dad. Then he calls his dad to say, hey, I'm going to be doing appointments on Father's Day, but we're going to take care of you early. And I'm like, I like this guy. He's proactive. There are other people when it comes to calling anyone, they're like, I don't know if I can do it. Look, I was that guy. I was afraid of the phone. And then I got better because I just phoned more often. Is everybody with me on that? It's no big deal. You're expanding your capacity with this job. That's one of the single most important things. All right, before we phone, I want to tell you something. Before we phone, I want to tell you something. Everybody, if you were to think about, and this will be a good thing for you to go into phone time with. Everybody, if you were to think about the tech industry. Like a lot of people, Luke, hey, I want to graduate from college and I want to work with a startup, or I want to start my own company, or I want to work with Salesforce. Everybody, you all know Cutco's privately owned, right? Does everybody know that? We are privately owned, okay? So during COVID, there was a 10-week period where we had to shut our factory down in New York, right? State law, we had to shut our factory down. For those 10 weeks, we paid our employees as if they were making Cutco for the whole 10 weeks. There were a lot of companies during COVID, they furloughed their employees, they let go their employees. Why? Because they were beholden to the stock price. Cutco is not. We're privately owned. Did it cost us profit in 2020? It did. Because we had 10 weeks where we were paying people as if they were making product and they didn't make it. Here's where I'm going with this. When people say things like, Dave, I want to work with Google, right? I passed Apple's beautiful new headquarters as I was driving in today in Cupertino. And it's like, when people say I want to work with Google, Salesforce, Amazon, think about what all those companies did during COVID. Do you realize they all had layoffs? Every single one of them in the Silicon Valley area, like laying off 3,000 people, 5,000 people. It's always funny to me, like, hey, Dave, I'm going to graduate from college and get a good, solid, stable job. Yeah, I had two really good friends of mine at Twitter. And you know what happened when Elon took over? They were no longer at Twitter. It's fact. What's great about this job is everybody eats, but you got to put in the work. Does that make sense? I love that. It's my 26th year here. Never had to worry about job security one time. One of my fraternity brothers got furloughed in 2020, and he's like, but I'm not going to get fired. And you've all heard of the firm he used to work with. I won't name the company. He then got fired. Right? Because, it's COVID and what we sheltering in place, and oh my gosh, we got to try to save the stock price. So they let a bunch of people go. Cutco did not. We let exactly 0 people go. Everybody came back. They were all fired up to work, right? I am so grateful for our product. I'm grateful for our company. So everybody, let's do this. Let's go in attack mode right now. I want you to click on your phone.